and we just want to grow this project. I thank you in advance. Without further ado, let's get it rolling. The ShOUT Show. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. I'm Preacher Moss, host of the SOS, the ShOUT Show. I hope you're having a tremendous day today. I've been trying to make the most of this day as I can, trying to get this show right. But I'm here to tell everybody I have a really good feeling about the show. It's something we really need to be discussing, but we want to take care of our house affairs early. If you're coming on the ShOUT Show for the first time, welcome. We appreciate you coming, and we hope that we earn this little bit of time. You've shared your cognitive surplus with you, and we hope that we reward you accordingly. That's number one. Number two is, whether you like the show or not, you are now and officially a part of the SOS family. The SOS family is in the chat box. They're on the internet. They're giving out ideas. This is a unique, particular situation. And I also want to say that while you're listening to the show, I want you to contribute. Get in that comment section. Put your ideas in there, and I will put them on the screen. And we'll put them out in the stratosphere. Why? Because everybody has an opinion. And I want to hear everybody's opinion. And officially, it's what we call the ShOUT Show. So, second order of business, I got to give a shout out. Oh, the chat box is early this morning. Got to give a shout out to my brothers and sisters who are out in the space. You know, my ShOUT soldiers, my ShOUT family. They're en masse. I appreciate you coming on. This topic is a little different. I really spent some time talking about this with several people, looking at some of my old notes. I actually went back to an old notebook I had when I was in college, when I was a freshman in college, talking about race and diversity back then as a freshman at Marquette University in Milwaukee. We're going to talk about that as well. You know, brothers and sisters, I want to give a couple of shout outs. Some people who have been holding it down for a while. I want to give a shout out really to my Aunt Maxine, Brother Omar Kareem, you know, who've been quietly supporting the show. You see them at the end and the credits roll up. You know, I always give a shout out to Sister Sultana, a consultant producer who, in the kindest way, let me know I can't even count. I was 10 shows off. You know, we're steamrolling, brothers and sisters, on our way to 200 shows. And that's not due to me. All praises due to God. All praises due to Allah. I put credit where it is. But you know what? Every day you got to get up here and you got to do the work. So let me give my shout outs to my brothers and sisters. Big shout out to Sister Ree. Everybody, Sister Ree is doing catering. So if you're in the Houston, Texas area and you're hearing this show, get some of Sister Ree's turkey lasagna. It is the closest thing to halal heroin that you're going to have. It is addictive. That's all I'm saying. Sister Sultana, you know, I was giving you a shout out. Sister Mujahid is in transit, brothers. She's in the car, driving on the way to Arizona, getting it done. And Sister Rabina, all the way from across the pond. I have to say this about Sister Rabina. When the show comes on, brothers and sisters, it's 11 o'clock at night. And she's hanging on, God bless her heart, hanging on to hear the ShOUT Show and share. And she's always been a great contributor to the show. With that said, let me get to the order of business, brothers and sisters. Let me get to the order of business. The order of business is I've been searching in my soul, in my spirit. When I say in my soul, my spirit, I mean, there's something inside me that's had a rumbling, and it's not a comedic idea. It is troubling, but in a I want to say troubling, but in a, what's the word I'm looking for? A complex environment. It's troubling, but it's in a very complex environment. And when I say complex environment, what I'm saying, or what I'm trying to insist here, is that the world is not that complicated. It's just that actions, lack of actions, and reactions have put us in a space where people don't know whether they can move forward or move back, per se. when we talk about COVID. COVID is what it is. But you look around the world and look at people who effectively dealt with it, and you look at our situation. And our situation should not be that. There's no way we should have lost over 216,000 lives. There's no way. And people say, it's by God's design. I understand that. But evil has something to do with this. And I'm going to talk about that today. Yesterday, we started talking about the Supreme Court justices. I did it for a reason, because as soon as I said it, it started getting worse and worse and worse and worse. As people try and go to the polls today, they're talking about having to spend almost 12 to 14 hours standing online for in-person voting in the state of Georgia. Now, I'm going to give those people online some credit. They realize the stakes are high, and so they're willing to stand online to get that thing. And the only thing that comes close to it, that's reminiscent of it, is when Black people trying to get the vote in 65. I was born in 66. I can only hear and remember some of the conversations that my parents had, my grandparents had when I was little, about them going to vote, because it was a call to action. They didn't feel comfortable. And that was a beautiful thing in that era of fighting for the right to vote. Even when they got the right to vote, they didn't feel comfortable. They didn't believe, like I talked about, it wasn't a compromise. It had to be taken from the grips of people. You know what? When you have to snatch it and you have to hold it, you have to turn your body to protect it. That was what it is. And that feeling is back today. All over the country, the GOP, let's call it what it is trying to figure out how to make sure people don't vote. They're going to do it through the census. They've already tried that. They're trying to do it through the census. They're trying to make sure that there's no polling places. They're trying to make sure the polling place goes early, trying to make sure the early voting happens early, trying to make sure the census isn't. You have all this cavalcade of things. And when I fell asleep last night, I had a dream of when I first showed up to college at Marquette University, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And it was traumatic because I had never been out of DC before, just outside of, New York, New Jersey, Philly. I'd never been out of DC. I had never been to the Midwest, brothers and sisters. And when I got to the Midwest, it was like I was in a time warp. Like certain aspects of King and the NOI had missed Milwaukee altogether. We're talking corner store, bars, we're talking about, bodegas. It was so far away from what I knew. And my first year was extremely traumatic because I was an idealist. The first time away from home, I'm 17 years old, and I'm seeing how racism works. And it's not a conceptual racism. I'm seeing how it works, from dealing with the police to dealing with people in my dorm to all these type of things. And there was one thing that happened that changed my perspective, that actually leads into the conversation that I'm about to have today. And the thing that happened, brothers and sisters, was this. I became part of a protest against a thing called apartheid in South Africa. Now, shout out Sister Ika, Sister Rabina. Yep, 14 hours waiting time. That's it. I became part of a student group, quasi-Black student union, and we were protesting against apartheid. We felt that our school, a Jesuit university, should be standing with us protesting against apartheid. School wanted nothing to do with this. That's a whole nother story, because I want to have gotten kind of officially and unofficially suspended for a semester. Hope my mom's not watching. But what happened was I learned about the plight of people who looked like me over in Africa. And it parallels something, people. It paralleled that it was the start of the crack wars, 84, 85. And I'm doing this thing with protesting against apartheid. Apartheid was a system, brothers and sisters, a system whereby minority rule over African countries was the norm. Minority rule. South Africa is one of the last bastions. The diamond thieves, the Boers, and all those people cemented power through laws, misappropriation of land, lying, and killing. What they established was a policy whereby the constituency, the African constituency in South Africa, could not vote for their own well-being. They couldn't vote. And this is in 83, 84 that this is going on. And you've heard about Mandela, you've heard about Biko, you've heard about all these people, but this is happening in real time. And eventually, Mandela would lead South Africa out of apartheid. But it was late. And he was older then. He had done 27 years of prison. So what hit me yesterday as I was watching Miss Barrett for the Supreme Court nomination, and I saw this cavalcade of things happening with voting and the Assalamu alaikum, Sister Sultana. All these things with voting and trying to deny voting and voter suppression. It's at this point, people, it's not even hidden. It's not even the unseen. It's in the seen world. We are watching people literally cheat, be dishonest, be distrustful, be misleading to hold on to power. And at that point in time, as I thought about it this morning, I said, this is no longer the United States. This is the Apartheid States of America. I said it again, Apartheid States of America. Because they are setting up to do the same thing, brothers and sisters. This is potentially the last election whereby people of color will not be the majority. The next election, it'll be all of the majority. And what you have now is this collating of power in the stipulation of law. We're going to give you law. We're not going to give you right or wrong, morality, ethics. We're going to give you laws. Black people are going to give you laws. Latinos are going to give you laws. Poor people are going to give you laws. Women are going to give you laws. And I see that spirit is permeating all around the country. You see, Donald Trump, brothers and sisters, if you missed it, maybe you did, maybe you didn't. He came in with an agenda. And his agenda was built on what Richard Nixon did. And Richard Nixon's agenda was built on so much what happened in foreign countries, foreign lands, which were designed to suppress Africans, designed to suppress Latinos. It was a suppression effort. And what you have now, it's convening now. It's a day of reckoning. We actually have to have the will to stand online for 14 and 15 hours to cast a vote. It is imposing will, not even against someone else's will, but against someone else's wrong. You have to impose will against wrong now. That you have people, public servants that don't serve anybody except themselves. Ted Cruz, except themselves. Corbyn, except themselves. Donald Trump, except themselves. Mike Pence, except themselves. All they do is serve themselves and people who are like them. And when I say people who are like them, I'm like people who are some of the weakest constitution. The weakest constitution. There is no moral right anymore. Remember the moral right? The evangelicals are silent. We don't hear them because the evangelicals understand that our ships are tied to these people. It's not tied to God. It's not tied to scripture. It's not tied to the gospel. It's tied to this man who's going to make sure when the going gets tough, you can lean on laws to keep your level above everyone else, to make sure that you can maintain privilege, even though the demographics say that people of color are the majority here in the United States, around the world. You have nowhere to hide except behind laws. You see the understanding? If you really want to break it down, brothers and sisters, let me break this down for you. Doing away with Obamacare is not doing away with health care. It's doing away with wellness. It's doing away with being able to function at full capacity. It's being aware that whatever they're going to offer in terms of health care, if they took Obamacare away, and I haven't seen a plan yet, but you can guarantee that it's going to be vastly inferior to what Obamacare is. Because people who are scared, people who are weak, continually push, advocate, legislate to make sure that you stay weaker than them. And God forbid, despite everything that's going on, you're not weaker than them. You're not submissive. You keep your creativity. You keep your bounce. You keep your swag, brothers and sisters. And folks still don't understand that it's coming from a totally different place. Martin Luther King, in my opinion, brothers and sisters, when white people stopped liking Martin Luther King, it wasn't because he had a dream. He had a reality. He had an epiphany. And somewhere along the line, the myth goes, somebody goes, Mark, you want to be, you want to be equal to white people? And he said, no. The conversation, I'm paraphrasing, goes, who wants to be equal to those people? Do you see those people? Those people are animals. Those people eat their young. These people are horrible individuals. These people are devoid of spirit. They're devoid of God light. They're devoid of Jesus. They're devoid of all these things. And King said, who wants to be like that? Who wants to be like these individuals? And when he said that, people said, he's got to go. He's got to go. When I went to South Africa, one of the more enlightening things that happened was I was hanging out with a guy, and he was my driver for the whole time that I was in. Now, this is how crazy it was. Here I am, a black man in South Africa. I had to have a bodyguard wherever I go in the city. I said, why? He said, because we don't want you to have any problem. We don't want anybody to beat you up. Or they actually feared that I feared being amongst my people, my African brothers and sisters. And they insisted I had to take a bodyguard with me. I was like, whatever, man. And I hung out with my African brothers and sisters. I love them. South Africa is a wonderful place. But towards the end of my trip, and this is deep, I was working with a guy. He was a driver. I can't remember his name. It slipped my mind. But he was a driver. And he was a good driver. He was always on time. He was courteous. Always had a bottle of water, some fruit. I'm like, this guy's amazing. And in my mind, I'm thinking, this is incredible service. But check what I'm thinking, brothers and sisters. I said, all right, well, my salon, Sister Griffin. Give you a shout out there. I'm hanging out with my South African brother. He's giving me incredible service. He's been my driver, my friend. He took me in to get souvenirs, all of this. And on the way to the airport, I said, brother, this is amazing. I said, man, you are top flight. And I said, man, how long you been running? How long has your business been going? And he stopped. I said, brother, he said, huh? I said, yo, this is your business, right? And he goes, no. And I said, wait. I said, as good a service? I said, well, I said, okay, cool. I said, look at where I'm coming from. I said, look, brother, if it's not your business, you need to quit this business and start your own business. And the brother didn't say anything. And I said, what's going on, brother? And he explained to me that one of the nightmares and the actual crimes against humanity that apartheid played in South Africa, it wasn't the apartheid of separating whites and blacks, brothers and sisters. Hear what I'm saying. It wasn't separating whites and blacks, brothers and sisters. He said it was the conditioning involved to separate whites and blacks. He said, you don't understand, brother. He said, you're coming from a whole nother place. He says, college is not what we do in South Africa. He said, that's a relatively new aspect of living. And I said, what do you mean? He said, brother, let me explain something to you. He said, all during apartheid, what the education system ensured for generations and generations and generations, start thinking about education in the United States, people. For generations and generations and generations, he said, they didn't teach us about being entrepreneurs in South Africa. He said, they didn't teach us about having our own businesses. He said, they didn't teach us about self-sustainability. He said, the whole education system behind apartheid, for all the years that people went through it, he said, they taught us to be good servants. He said, they taught us to be good servants. And what was even more amazing, he said, brother, in South Africa, you're not even considered black. You're considered white. We're the only black people here. And I thought it was amazing. He said, we're the only black people here. He said, the country of South Africa won't invest in infrastructure for South Africans to have business. I said, well, I saw a black guy over here. He said, no, brother. He said, those are Nigerians. Nigerians are allowed to come in and start businesses and have wealth. We cannot have wealth. Now, let me explain something, people. Without getting emotional. I cried. I cried like someone had locked up my brother for 30, 40, 50 years for no reason at all. And even if that brother even did something, he had been in jail so long, he couldn't remember the cause. That's how deep it was. He couldn't even remember why he was in jail. And the education system is so flawed that they can't even remember the entrepreneurial spirit, the idea of doing for self. It's always doing for government. That's colonialism. But let me come back to the United States. Or should I say, the Apartheid States of America. We are being pulled in the same direction. I figured it out, but we're being pulled in the same direction. You know, this has become a protest country, but people don't know how to protest because people don't know how to ask the right questions. Because people don't understand, hey, if they tell you it's going to take 14 hours for you to vote, then you plan to be there 16 hours. This is the boutique protest. I said this a couple shows back about real protests. They always talk about the bus boycott down in Montgomery, right? The bus boycott. And finally, you know, the bus company allowed black people to ride in the front, they didn't have to be in the back of the bus. But people don't remember how long that boycott went. Well over a year. And the will of the people saying, we're not going to ride those buses. And in not riding those buses, it affected the economy of that era, but it also affected the psyche that people could not control these folks because the levers and knobs that are used for leverage and pressure, they don't apply here. They don't apply here. It was the ultimate definition of woke before there was a woke, brothers and sisters. It wasn't even woke. It was a woo-wee. A woo-wee. Because you actually scared somebody. I love the fact that when I do stand up and I look in the audience and I know there's some people who definitely don't want to hear what I got to say, I love giving it to them. I love that because I have confidence and belief in my community, my religion, my family, my education, that somehow it makes you nervous. Somehow it makes you feel uncomfortable. And the reason why I like it is because I remind them that's how I feel. And in South Africa, you have a generation upon generation upon generation upon generation of people in their own country who were made to feel like you're not safe. So I would say this as I begin to wrap up, brothers and sisters. Here in the Apartheid States of America, a certain action is underway. If you think this Supreme Court judge is dangerous, you're too late. Almost 200 some judges, conservative judges, they don't look like me, they don't look like you, but they have positions that will ensure that our children get poor education, they get poor food, they'll get poor health care, if any. They have poor options for education, going to college. They won't be able to get loans. Oh, and did I tell you, criminal justice court, criminal justice? So we're going to make sure that whoever's left is going to go to jail. They're going to have a criminal record. We're going to make sure that that criminal record affects you trying to get any kind of meaningful employment. And we're going to use it. Here's the killer part. We're going to use it for the police caliphate so that when they pull you over, they have a right, if you will, to make you feel uncomfortable, hurt you, harm you, kill you by virtue of the fact that, ooh, you may be dangerous. Let me give a shout out to Sister Satana. Yes, yep. So I don't want to leave too many things on the table about this. You know, the thing about apartheid, it was systemic. But it was open. It was open. When I think back to college, we talked about apartheid this, apartheid that. And while America wasn't, while we didn't like apartheid, it made us appreciate America a little bit more back in '84. So at least we ain't got to walk on the side of the street, jump out on the curb and the worst white person walks by, but you got to have your ID to make sure who you are, where you are. I mean, it's very constrictive, brothers and sisters. But here we are in 2020. A plethora of black men, black women, let me add, fairly young, not old, like 65, 70, not old, fairly young people have been murdered, struck down. When I say young, brothers and sisters, I'm talking about Tamir Rice young. How many people remember Yusef Hawkins in New York? See, that tells you that we are in the Apartheid States of America. And there's a danger, brothers and sisters. Lest I conjecture, even with a black man on the Supreme Court, he will go against his own people. He has gone against his own people. I can't say I don't know him, but I know his rulings. And his rulings are doing what the white man tells him to do. Because that's white law. And when you're in white law, you do what white law tells you to do. Do I hate on him? No, I understand, brother. You're trying to keep that job. That job's for life. So the question is, what are we going to do about it? The question is, can we build consensus whereby the laws you're putting out, I'm not going to break them, but I'm not going to comply with them. Hear what I'm saying? I'm not going to break the laws, but I'm not going to comply with them. Meaning that you need me as an asset. Can we, as a society, as conscious people, begin to reframe who we are as assets? Tell you a story. And then I'm going to get out of here. There was a club I worked at in Milwaukee. It was called Comedy Cafe. The owner's name was JD. JD and I were cool for a long time. We were very, very cool, brothers and sisters. We were good friends. And I would come down to the club and I'd do my stand-up and everybody loved old preaching, da-da-da-da. And I'm like, but I wasn't moving up and I kind of stepped JD, I was like, hey man, I've been doing well. I'm headliner here. Can you put me on? Can I at least be considered for a headliner? And he was like, no, you need more practice. And I listened to him. Okay, well maybe I need more practice. And then I started seeing people who weren't as funny, they weren't as consistent, and they were getting headliner spots and headliner money. And he kept telling me, no. And what it was he knew he had two headliners, except he paid me 75% less than what he paid the other guy. And so I went away for a while and I started working at colleges. And I booked this college, several colleges. I booked this college and he wanted me to work this week. I guess they had a fallout. He said, listen, brother, I need you. And I'm like, oh, he said, I'm gonna headline you. He's pumping me up. I said, really? Cool. And he says, well, you got to work this. I said, wait a minute. Hey, I can't work Thursday. I can work Friday, Saturday, all of I can't work Thursday. And he said, well, if you can't work Thursday, you can't work. And I'm like, wait a minute. What this college is paying me roughly, what are you paying me? $1,000. They're paying me 3 times more than what you're paying me. And I only got to do an hour. To get your money, I got to work the whole week. And he said, well, if you don't want to work here, if you don't do that, you can't do the rest. And I felt the oppression. But here's the thing, though. I said, wait a minute. I'm the asset. I said, I'm going to change the value of the asset. And I simply said, you know what? I'm not available. Imam Warfdeen Muhammad has this comment. And I know you've heard it before, but I'm going to say it again anyway. He said, if you don't like the way people treat you, change the way you think. Profound. If you don't like the way people treat you, change the way you think. If the laws are pervasive and they're unfair and they're disadvantageous to us, we need to put ourselves in spaces where we redefine who we are as assets and begin to move back from laws that harm us. And I always say, and people say, what do you mean? Well, these are the laws that are the laws of man. Maybe we don't follow the laws of man anymore. Maybe we follow the laws of God. Maybe if I look at you and you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, I rule you invalid. I rule you incorrect. I rule you corrupt as a jurist. Because I know that you're not talking about anything that has to do, brothers and sisters, with right or wrong. If you can't tell me right or wrong and all you can give me the law is that tells me something. I mean, hell, the devil's not that stupid. Even the devil knows right and wrong. But the devil never gives you laws. You know who gives you laws? People in the Apartheid States of America. So, brothers and sisters, I hope we had some good dialogue here. I'm sorry I went over a little early. I went over a little. So I apologize for that. But I just had to get that out because it's happening. It's happening right now. So all the things that we've heard from when we were children and, militias and there are people who are mounting up to make sure that they break our will. And I don't mean break our will at the voting booth in the polls. Literally, there are people who don't care how we vote. They're so desperate and so scared that they are literally willing to kidnap their own white governors. 2 of them. Think I'm lying? I ain't lying. Read the news. Take care. Preacher Moss, shout out show. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Hey everybody, this is your brother Preacher Moss. Listen, I hope that you enjoyed your Shout Out Show experience. We'll be back with the next show, the next Shout Out Show. A simple ask before you go, please help your brother out. Click that subscribe button, click that notify button, and I'll see you again on this side of the microphone. You probably wonder what that smell is. That's me. I smell good. And the reason I smell good is because I use oils from stratified. So I'm not saying you can't smell good. I'm not even saying you stink. I'm saying you have the opportunity to smell exquisite. Check out stratified.com for some of the best oils and scents in town.